Okay, so if you think about mitochondria right now, what's the first thing that comes to mind? For almost everyone, it's probably going to be uh, powerhouses of the cell.
That's the classic textbook answer, isn't it? The one we all learned.
Exactly. And look, it's not technically wrong, but that simple description, it's really, really misleading. It sells these incredible little engines way short.
It completely misses the bigger picture. What we're diving into today is understanding mitochondria not just as, power generators, but as the central, almost intelligent managers of your whole metabolic system.
Managers, okay? How so?
Well, they control your energy flow, how you respond to the fuel you eat, and maybe most importantly, your vulnerability to chronic inflammation. And that connects to basically every age-related disease out there.
Right, so that's the mission for this deep dive. We're looking at some really compelling research that draws a direct line from how efficiently your cells make energy ATP to these massive systemic problems.
Problems like metabolic dysfunction, chronic fatigue, accelerated aging.
And we're exploring what happens when modern life, specifically this constant overload of fuel, and frankly, sitting around too much, just completely overwhelms these ancient managers.
It's fascinating stuff. The material really connects the dots between what's happening deep inside a single cell and how you experience aging, your energy levels, even your brain function.
Yeah, because when mitochondrial management fails, it's not like a small power outage. It's more like a systemic crisis that hits your brain, your heart, your muscles, your immune system, everything.
Precisely. It's foundational.
Okay, let's dig into that, this unique legacy, because it's kind of mind-blowing how vital they are. Beyond just power, they're key responders to energy demand. They have to protect organs that need tons of energy.
Like the brain, the heart, your muscles, they are absolutely packed with mitochondria for that reason.
And their origin story is just wild. It's
Yeah.
key to understanding them, right? They weren't always part of our cells.
That's right. They actually have their own DNA, separate from the DNA in your cell's nucleus. They were once free-living bacteria billions of years ago.
Billions.
Wow,
Oh,
over a billion, yeah. They entered this partnership, this symbiosis, with our very early ancestral cells. And that partnership basically enabled complex life as we know it. They became permanent residents.
and here's the bit that always gets me. Every single mitochondrion in your body came from your mother. Hmm.
Exclusively through the egg cell at conception.
So your mitochondrial health, the very things managing your heart rate or how clearly you think right now, it's tied to this ancient bacterial line passed down maternally. It's just wild.
It really is. And that brings us to their main job, their core function, producing ATP, adenosine triphosphate,
The energy currency.
the fundamental energy currency for literally everything your cells do. They make it through this incredibly complex process called oxidative phosphorylation.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. Oxidative phosphorylation sounds intense.
It is intense. Think of it like the cell's main power turbine. It takes electrons, which are stripped from the fuel you eat, glucose, fats, and uses their energy to churn out ATP.
So it powers everything from making hormones to thinking.
To muscle contractions, nerve signals, keeping your heart beating, absolutely everything. It's a high-efficiency energy extraction process.
And this is a crucial point the research hammers home.
Mhm.
There's a massive design flaw, or at least a vulnerability for modern life.
Yes, they have no storage tank for ATP. None.
No buffer at all.
No buffer. They can only produce ATP strictly on demand. If a cell signals need energy now, they ramp up. If the demand drops, they need to ramp down immediately. The fuel flow has to match the needs second by second.
Okay, that reliance on demand is the core weakness then.
It's the core vulnerability in our modern context, yes. The system evolved for fluctuating energy availability and demand, not constant surplus.
This is where that solar panel analogy from the source material is so helpful. Let's
Yeah.
walk through that.
Right. Imagine your mitochondria are like super efficient solar panels. On a bright sunny day, meaning you've just eaten a high-carb meal, lots of glucose fuel, the panels are working hard, converting sunlight fuel into electricity, ATP.
Makes sense. Capturing that energy.
But what if the battery is connected to those panels, your body's energy storage systems, like glycogen in muscles and liver, or fat in adipose tissue, are already completely full?
Oh.
And you keep the sunlight pouring onto the panels because you keep eating, maybe.
Yeah.
There's no simple off switch on the panel itself just because the battery is full. The energy has to go somewhere.
Right. So the system gets overloaded, wires overheat, damage occurs.
Right.
And that's what's happening inside us.
That's precisely the analogy for chronic energy surplus. High fuel intake, low energy demand because we're not moving enough, and our storage batteries are full to bursting.
The mitochondria just get swamped.
Completely overwhelmed. They're trying to push electrons down the electron transport chain to make ATP, but the demand isn't there, so the chain gets backed up. It's like a traffic jam.
And then backup causes
It's
problems.
big problems.
Yeah.
Electrons start to leak out of the chain prematurely. They shouldn't be doing that. And when they leak, they react directly with oxygen molecules nearby.
And that creates
Highly reactive, damaging molecules we call free radicals, or reactive oxygen species, ROS. That's the initial spark. That leakage is where the cellular damage and inflammation really begin.
Okay, so the system's overheating, generating these damaging ROS sparks. What was the body's original plan for dealing with occasional surplus? There must have been some kind of safety valve.
There was, and it's called insulin. In the world we evolved in think hunter-gatherer, feast and famine cycles, insulin was that crucial safety valve.
How did it work?
It was really an elegant system for maintaining balance, homeostasis. When a big load of glucose arrived after a meal, insulin's job was basically to say, okay, let's clear this extra fuel out of the blood safely and store it.
Store it where?
First, in the muscles and liver as glycogen, which is like a short-term reserve. Any excess beyond that gets converted into triglycerides and packed away more long-term into fat cells, adipose tissue.
So it was designed for periods of abundance followed by periods of scarcity.
Exactly. It wasn't designed for 247, relentless abundance with minimal energy expenditure.
Which is, well, pretty much the modern Western lifestyle for many people.
Unfortunately, yes. And that constant high-calorie processed food supply is causing this beautifully evolved system to just fail spectacularly. We're living in a state of perpetual solar surplus, to use the analogy again.
So insulin keeps trying to do its job, pushing fuel into storage.
Tries, yes. But eventually, the storage depots, the liver, the muscles, the fat cells, they just get full. They become saturated.
And then what?
Then you hit a crisis point. The fat cells, trying to cope, become inflamed and dysfunctional. The muscle and liver cells, already stuffed with glycogen and fat, start ignoring insulin's signal to take up more glucose.
Ah, and that's insulin resistance.
That is the very definition of insulin resistance. The cells stop responding properly. Insulin's protective role, getting glucose out of the bloodstream, is effectively neutralized.
So glucose levels in the blood start to rise.
And stay high. And this excess glucose floods into the mitochondria, which are already overloaded and now can't escape the relentless fuel supply. They simply cannot manage the flow anymore.
And that's when the serious damage ramps up, this invisible fire you mentioned.
That's when it really takes hold. You get a massive increase in that electron leakage. The ROS production goes through the roof. This oxidative stress starts damaging everything: DNA, proteins, cell membranes. Immune cells get activated.
And the fat itself changes.
Yes, the research highlights this really crucial point. The fat, especially the visceral fat, the stuff deep around your organs, VAT, it stops being just a passive storage tank. It actually transforms into an active inflammatory organ itself.
Wow, an inflammatory organ.
Yeah, churning out its own inflammatory signals, making the whole situation worse. It becomes this self-perpetuating cycle of metabolic dysfunction and inflammation.
Okay, this connection between overloaded mitochondria and the immune system.
Yeah.
It seems critical. How exactly does a stressed-out energy producer trigger an immune response?
It goes back to that origin story. Remember, mitochondria were bacteria.
Right, the ancient partnership.
So when mitochondria get severely stressed and damaged, they can break open and leak some of their contents, including fragments of their own mitochondrial DNA.
And the body sees that DNA.
And it looks very similar to bacterial DNA. Your innate immune system is hardwired to see bacterial components as a major danger signal and invasion.
So it thinks it's under attack from bacteria, even though it's internal damage.
Essentially, yes. It misinterprets the signal. And this triggers a powerful alarm system within the immune cells called the NLRP3 inflammasome.
The inflammasome, what does that do?
It kicks off a cascade, releasing potent inflammatory messenger molecules called cytokines. Think of it as sounding the alarm bells and calling in the troops for an acute infection.
But there's no infection to fight.
Exactly. Because the trigger is chronic energy overload, not a pathogen, this inflammasome stays switched on. Low level, but constant. It fuels this persistent, simmering inflammation throughout the body, what researchers call metaflammation or metabolic inflammation.
That invisible fire.
That's the one. It's not like the acute inflammation from an injury. It's this low-grade background noise of inflammation that never really turns off.
And this is what contributes to those symptoms people feel but can't always pin down, like the constant tiredness, the brain fog.
Yes. persistent fatigue, difficulty concentrating, aches and pains, accelerated tissue aging. It underpins so much. And it directly drives the progression of major diseases like atherosclerosis, type 2 diabetes, even neurodegenerative conditions.
And this ties into aging itself, doesn't it?
Directly. Aging naturally involves some decline in mitochondrial function. You accumulate mutations in mitochondrial DNA over time. The cleanup processes get less efficient.
Yeah.
It's a normal part of getting older.
Right.
But this chronic overload from excess fuel and inactivity, it's like pouring gasoline on that natural aging fire. It dramatically accelerates the decline of your mitochondria, making you biologically older faster.
Okay, that sounds pretty bleak. But the research also offers hope, right? This isn't necessarily a one-way street.
Absolutely not. That's the really empowering part. Mitochondria are incredibly dynamic. They respond very well to signals from your lifestyle. We can tell them to clean house, build more efficient engines, and reboot the system.
So how do we do that? What are the actionable strategies?
The main theme is managing energy flow, leveraging demand signals, and giving the system strategic rest. So strategy number 1 has to be movement. Exercise.
The demand signal.
The ultimate demand signal. Exercise tells your muscles, we need energy and NOW. This forces mitochondria to burn fuel. But it does more than that.
Yeah.
It actually triggers the creation of new mitochondria that's called mitochondrial biogenesis. It improves how well your muscles take up glucose, and it stimulates the repair and recycling of existing mitochondria. It's crucial.
So you got to burn down the stored fuel. Makes
Yeah.
sense. What about the rest part of the equation?
That brings us to strategy number 2. Strategic fasting or time-restricted eating, TRE. This isn't just about cutting calories overall, though that helps. It's about the timing, creating periods where no fuel is coming in.
Why is that timing so important?
Because that fasted state triggers a vital cellular housekeeping process called mitophagy.
Mitophagy. That's the cleanup crew.
Exactly. The cell identifies old, damaged, dysfunctional mitochondria and essentially eats them, recycling their components. This clears out the gunk, reduces that ROS production and inflammation, and allows for healthier mitochondria to take over. It's like hitting a reset button.
Okay. Movement for demand, fasting for cleanup. What's next? Strategy 3.
Fuel management. We have to stop the constant flooding. This means paying attention to the type of fuel we're putting in, specifically lowering the glycemic load.
Meaning avoiding those huge blood sugar spikes after meals.
Precisely. Reducing intake of refined carbohydrates, sugary drinks, processed foods that cause rapid glucose surges. The research even suggests tools like continuous glucose monitoring, CGM, can be incredibly helpful here.
AGM. Explain that quickly.
It's a small wearable sensor that tracks your blood glucose levels 24/7. It gives you real-time feedback on how specific foods affect your body. Seeing that data can be a powerful motivator to make different choices. Personalized nutrition, essentially.
Very interesting. Okay. Strategy 4.
Can't forget muscle mass. We often focus on fat, but muscle is metabolically critical.
How so?
Your muscle tissue is the biggest sink for glucose disposal in your body. It's packed with mitochondria. Having more healthy muscle mass is like having a bigger, more effective drain for pulling excess glucose out of your bloodstream after meals.
So building or maintaining muscle is key for metabolic health.
Absolutely. This means prioritizing adequate protein intake and incorporating resistance training. Strength training doesn't just make mitochondria more efficient, it signals the cells to build more mitochondria, increasing your overall capacity to handle fuel. It's vital, especially as we age.
Right. Makes total sense. Finally, strategy 5, supporting the system directly.
Yes, providing the necessary raw materials and protection. Mitochondria rely on complex enzymes, and those enzymes need specific micronutrients to function properly.
Like what?
The source material highlights several key players. Magnesium is crucial. B vitamins are essential cofactors in energy metabolism. CoQ10 is directly involved in the electron transport chain, and omega-3 fatty acids support membrane health.
And antioxidants to deal with those free radicals.
Exactly. While the body has its own antioxidant systems, certain dietary compounds can help bolster defenses. Polyphenols are a big category mentioned. These are compounds found in colorful plants.
Examples.
Think extra virgin olive oil, green tea, berries, dark chocolate. These compounds can help neutralize ROS and reduce that background oxidative stress.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. The big takeaway here, the central idea for everyone listening.
It's that our modern way of life, constant fuel, minimal movement, chronic stress, is fundamentally asking our ancient mitochondria to do a job they never evolved for.
Process endless surplus energy without a break, without demand.
Right. And that mismatch, that chronic stress on the system, isn't just making us tired or gain weight slowly. It's actively driving chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, and speeding up the aging process itself. It's at the root of so many modern health crises.
So the paradigm shift is seeing these tiny organelles not just as powerhouses, but as central metabolic managers that we're systematically overloading.
Precisely. And if we connect this failure back to that visceral fat we talked about, think about all that energy that can't be burned and can't be safely stored.
Where does it go? What does it do?
Well, consider this question. How much of what we often label as just getting older or unexplained metabolic problems is actually the direct consequence of this energy accumulation, forcing that visceral fat, the VAT, to become more than just storage?
Becoming that invisible organ?
An invisible inflammatory organ that actively pumps out signals disrupting your metabolism and driving disease systemically. Maybe the most important thing you can do for your long-term health isn't just chasing symptoms, but actively managing your energy supply and your energy demand, rethinking that fundamental balance.